All right, looks like we are live. We are going to be doing this deal. Subject to deal. So that means that we would be buying the property, taking over the payment subject to not assuming the loan, but we would take it over the payment. So this is for a home, 171 Yount Road, Lexington, North Carolina, 27292. Let's go through the details on this spreadsheet, and then we will plug in the numbers together after we get some details. So let's see, 3 bed, 2 bath, 1619 square feet. Lot is 0.939 acres. Will be delivered vacant, built in 1999. 3.375% interest rate for the $126,500 subject to deal. Everything in the home estimate is 200 grand. Assignment fee is $15,000 plus an $8,000 due to the seller. Okay, all right, so we got some details right there. So what I want to do is grab the street view. Let's see if I can notice anything over here. This is pretty rural. Now, this is a manufactured home. So sometimes you might want to check with, usually housing authorities wouldn't have any problems with it based on some things that I've seen, but you just want to make sure that they do issue vouchers or they comp manufactured homes the same way they might comp another residence. So it's just some things that you want to be careful about. For the most part, this air looks pretty good. Okay, so next thing I want to do is get the crime index score. Tophap.com, tophap.com, and you go to the neighborhood section. That's when you will be able to grab the crime index score. 135. That's actually a little bit. That's a little high. For those of you that's watching on Instagram, you might not be able to see the score because of the vertical screen, but the one number that I am a little hesitant about is that the crime index score is 135, national average 100. I live in an area that's about like 88, 89, so I'm not too excited about this, but let's get the fair market rents, right? So the next thing you want to do is go to HUD FMR. If you Google HUD FMR, you're going to be able to find the website that allows you to click on the small area fair market rents. And once you click through that button, you'll be able to select North Carolina and then the county that this is in. I think this is Davidson County, if I remember correctly. And once you get there, you're going to get to this page for Davidson County, and you're going to see by zip code 27292, by bedroom count, how much rent you're able to charge for this property right here. Okay, all right. So I'm going to note that 1260 number down and the 1550 number down, because those are the numbers that's going to be most important when I analyze the deal later. So let's go to get the market rent. The next thing I do is I go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the market rent estimator. When I plug in the address and the bedroom count, it'll spit out 4 numbers to me. I care most about the number on the far right, which says for 25 units within a 4.76 mile radius right now, their average rent is $13.36. Now, when I compare the $13.36 to the HUD rent of $12.60, I now know that the ceiling rent, quote unquote, is what the county is willing to pay, which is $12.60. Now, there might be a number that's higher. It's usually called payment standards, but usually payment standards include utilities. There are some very expensive areas, which doesn't seem like it applies here, but in New York or Boston, very high standard of living areas, they might go up to 110%, 120% FMR. So these are just different things that you would want to know on your analysis and when you're talking to public housing authority on whether or not they take into consideration and what type of amenities might play into how they determine what is the reasonable rent there. If the market rent was lower than the FMR, then I would use the market rent to underwrite this property. Okay, now let's take a quick look at this property. Let's see if I want to pull up some photos here so I can estimate the rehab really quick, because that's one thing I want to make sure I am able to do with all of you. Let's see if I'm able to get the, see if I want to find the photos for this property. Realtor.com. Here we go. Like just some carpet, probably just paint the place. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary. Maybe just some paint and carpet for my estimate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch screens now, and I'm going to go to the Excel file. Using the Excel file, I am going to run through some numbers that we saw here. So for this property, we saw that the subject to loan was going to be, let me put the numbers on the other screen while I work through these numbers with all of you. We're estimating that the loan is going to be 126,500. So 126,500, 3.375% interest rate. I am going to make the due to seller at $8,000. And then the assignment fee is 15 grand. And so my asking price is going to be equals to cash to seller plus the underlying loan. So that's going to be 134,500. All right. I have closing costs of 2%, and I'm going to go through my renovations really quick. So this property was 1619 square feet. So I'm just going to assume that I just need to paint the place 1319. Plug in the number $3 a square foot. Oh, 1619, I'm sorry. And then I saw some carpet in about half the property. So I'm going to do equals 1619 divided by 2. So I'm assuming half the floor I'm going to replace with some LVP for a little bit more sturdy. I didn't see anything else that needed to be like massive renovations, like a bathroom or a kitchen that needed to be gutted. I'm assuming there's no termite issues right now, and the water heater won't have any issues. So that brings me into total rehab of roughly around 13 grand that I'm setting aside. All right, that's more than enough. Now, my monthly income rent, as I talked about earlier, is going to be the fair market rent, which is the FMR for a 3-bedroom, which is $1,260. Okay. Now that I got my asking price, my renovations, my rent, I'm gonna get the rest of my property taxes, which if you remember on the spreadsheet, I mean on the Word document that we looked at earlier, it said the PITI was 827. So I'm gonna get the property tax number by backing into it. So if I know that my principal, interest, and taxes and insurance is gonna be 827, that's how I know my property tax number is. And I'm just gonna add about 30 bucks an extra month for assuming that the insurance policy is going to be a little bit more expensive, assuming that I'm renting out to a uh, tenant instead of living in that property myself. Now, interestingly enough, it says that they must pay off the mortgage in 2 years. That's typically not what you want to hear, because if you're taking over this loan sub 2, you really want to be able to kind of carry that out towards the end of our amortization schedule. That's kind of the whole point of it. But at this point, it doesn't seem like that's possible. So even at these numbers right now, at my max rent of $1,260, assuming I'm putting aside 10% for maintenance, so just in case the roof, water heater, or HVAC needs to get replaced at some point, I got money set aside right now for 126 bucks a month for the anticipated replacement. I got 8% for property management and 3% for vacancy. And this is now resulting in a positive cash flow, but it's only 138 bucks a month, and that's only a 4% cash and cash return, 4.2, and my gross rent now is $1,260. And I was assuming a purchase price of $134,500. All right, and this was assuming a rehab of $13,599. All right. So my question is, well, what if I estimated my rehab wrong? What if I don't spend $13,000 rehab? I want to spend $6,800 rehab. Well, that's still only a 5.1% cash and cash return. Everything else is still the same from a monthly cash flow, but I was trying to play around with numbers, trying to figure out what would make this a deal. The other thing I might do is, well, what if I got half the rehab and the wholesaler knocked their assignment fee down to $5,000 instead of 15,000? Still not a deal because I'm looking for a 15% to 17% cash and cash return. So this is not a deal for me, but sometimes if your cash and cash return criteria is only 7, well, this might be a return for you. But again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any sort of investments. I am simply showing you guys what I'm doing on an everyday basis and trying to figure out how do I play with the scenarios so that I can determine what makes a deal versus not a deal. And right now, even if I lower the assignment, there's just not enough spread, right? And for me, that's not a deal. Some people might try to get a little creative and not include property management, but I don't think that's a good idea because that just means that you will be tying yourself to the property forever. And that's not why we got into real estate, right? We didn't get into real estate to take phone calls from our tenants every single day. That's not how you scale. So I personally always underwrite with property management, I always underwrite with maintenance because that's truly not money in your pocket. Something has to break eventually at your home. So for me, this is not a deal, but hey, this was just good practice. Uh, I hope you guys are able to kind of copy what I'm doing, put it onto your own YouTube channel, and continue to analyze every single day, underwriting deals with me every single day because that's how we get better. And I love doing this with all of you. So if you guys are not in my affordable housing and investment community yet, please make sure you DM me your email. I can send you the calculator if that's what you want. I can also invite you to our free Facebook group full of affordable housing investors so that we are continuing to build this building together. So thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. And I will catch you guys again tomorrow. I'm flying back home to San Diego today, so I will be back to it. All right, sounds good. Talk to you guys tomorrow.